You're looking at a bit of history in the making. This is the Red River at Grand Forks. Retired meteorologist Mark Ewens of the Grand Forks Weather Service reported on KNOX radio this morning. As for the month of October, the Red River here has not been this high since 1902. Wow. It's currently at 39.5 feet and expected to crest at 41.5 feet Tuesday through Thursday before it starts falling. It doesn't cause any flooding problems in the city of Grand Forks, who now has a dike system to handle it, but it's extremely high level. Here's Carl Jones of the Weather Service to talk about what's going on with all this.
Is it fair to say this is highly unusual to have the river at Grand Forks this high in October?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair statement to say this. It's pretty unusual to see this kind of flooding during this time of year. Usually we see this kind of river levels after the snow melt, say in the spring. However, we're in fall, and while we did just get an unusually large amount of snow in portions of our river basin, our rivers are actually high at the moment currently, more attributed to the wet weather we've seen previous to this snowstorm. We had the wettest September a month here in NWS Grand Forks, and that's been pretty normal throughout the region. September being just unusually wet, and we've had a lot of rainfall get into the river basins, and we've also had all that rain saturate our soil, so the water that we've gotten from this rainfall, and now that we're about to get from this snow melt, is having a hard time penetrate through the ground, and so now it's basically running off into the rivers and creating pretty widespread minor to moderate flood. Even some locations on the red, including places like Oslo, might get up to the major flooding.
Yeah. So I suppose you don't want to say anything yet as to what this means for next spring. Just as a layman, it wouldn't seem good.
Yeah, I mean, so there's still a lot of time to go through until we start talking about next spring and the impacts that what we're having right now as to what that may bring to spring snow. Say if we went through a whole entire winter with below normal snowfall, then that's probably going to have more of an impact on what our spring snow melt is going to be. However, we are setting the conditions, priming them at least in terms of saturated soils. Once you kind of freeze up with saturated soils, by the time you start to thaw out in the springtime, that saturated soil still remains, and therefore that spring snow melt, again, can't really go into the ground as if, or compared to if you didn't have the saturated soils.
All right. So, which quickly has more effect, but whatever. We have to wait and see what happens this winter, don't we?
That's correct, yeah. So while it seems pretty unusual right now, we still have a lot of time. We're also not expecting any really deep freezes to happen in the near future to really help solidify things up. So we could ultimately, hopefully we don't get a whole lot of additional precipitation to add to the basins. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this flood wave, if you will, come and go if current conditions stay as they are.
I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNews.TV.